What if I told you everything you just heard about Megan Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson, every single tear-jerking cheating headline, every viral tweet, every Daily Mail quote dressed up as receipts, was never actually a Klay Thompson story at all? What if I told you the man who never says a public word, who barely tweets, who has spent his entire NBA career allergic to drama, suddenly developed a craving to leak the words loud and ghetto to a British tabloid on the exact same week his ex dropped a flop diss track nobody played past Tuesday? Pause on that for 1 second. Because once you actually line up the dates, the publication, the writer, the missing names, and the silent third woman caught in the middle of all this, the entire narrative collapses like a folding chair at a family cookout. And the fingerprints left behind do not belong to Klay Thompson. They belong to a building. A black glass building in Manhattan. A building with a logo most of you can already picture in your head. Sit up straight because today Jada is dragging this whole thing into the daylight where the lighting is honest and the math actually adds up. Let me set the table. Last week, a tweet started ricocheting across timelines claiming Klay Thompson, through people connected to him, told the Daily Mail that Megan Thee Stallion was paranoid, loud, ghetto, and impossible to live a normal life around. The post painted Klay Thompson as the exhausted private athlete finally cracking after months of being recorded on dates, dragged into entourages, and trapped behind security details. The internet swallowed it whole. Headlines spawned in minutes. Reaction videos detonated by the dozen. Fans split into camps before lunch. And almost nobody asked the only question that actually matters. Who benefits? Because when a story drops fully formed, with quotes too clean, sources too anonymous, and timing too convenient, that is not journalism. That is a press release wearing a wig. And Jada has been in this game long enough to recognize a planted seed when it sprouts overnight in a garden nobody was watering. Let Jada walk you through this slowly, piece by piece, because once you see the seams, you cannot unsee them. Rewind 2 weeks before this Daily Mail bomb went off. Megan Thee Stallion hopped on a remix of Boss Mandlow's Motion Party and tucked a venomous little jab inside it. The line was clear. If Megan Thee Stallion catches a man cheating, it is deuces, no phone searching, no investigation, just exit. Fans immediately tied the bar to Klay Thompson, since the breakup was still warm enough to leave fingerprints. And here is the part nobody wants to admit. The song did not move. The verse did not trend. The diss did not stick. Megan Thee Stallion expected a cultural moment and got a cultural shrug. The streams were polite. The reposts were obligatory. The internet had already mentally filed Megan Thee Stallion's musical relevance somewhere between a missed call and a dead notification. And that, right there, is the spark. Because a woman who once owned the summer cannot survive on a shrug. A woman whose entire brand is being the hottest thing on a stage cannot tolerate silence. Silence is a wound. Silence demands a sequel. And the sequel arrived right on schedule wearing a Daily Mail byline, with a writer whose Rolodex reads like a Rock Nation holiday party list. Now look at who wrote that Daily Mail piece. The reporter behind it has a documented track record of pulling exclusives from sources orbiting one specific camp, the same camp that has signed, managed, advised, or quietly steered Megan Thee Stallion's entire post-Tory Lanez public persona. Rock Nation. Say the name out loud, because every time the Megan Thee Stallion brand needs a defibrillator, a story conveniently appears in the precise outlet most aligned with that machine. Tory Lanez was loud last month. Tory Lanez was loud the month before. Tory Lanez gets loud anytime Megan Thee Stallion has a tour stop, a single drop, a fashion campaign, or a relationship rumor running cold. That is not coincidence. That is a content strategy. And Jada is not saying Klay Thompson did not have grievances. Of course, Klay Thompson did. Anybody with eyes and a functioning nervous system could see Klay Thompson was uncomfortable. But there is a giant ocean between privately telling a friend you are exhausted and publicly running to a British tabloid to brand the woman you used to love loud and ghetto. Klay Thompson has never moved like that. Klay Thompson has barely moved at all for 15 years. Players who marinate in dynasty culture do not suddenly become tabloid plants in their 30s. That is not Klay Thompson's operating system, and anybody pretending otherwise has not been paying attention to the last decade of NBA media. Now the truly damning detail. There is a woman caught in the crossfire of this entire saga, Lexi Brown. Megan Thee Stallion's former podcast partner. The same Lexi Brown who quietly unfollowed Klay Thompson while Klay Thompson quietly unfollowed Lexi Brown back. 2 clicks of an unfollow button told the entire story months ago, and the internet pretended not to notice. If Klay Thompson really wanted to scrub the cheating narrative, the first move would be defending Lexi Brown publicly. 1 sentence. 1 denial. 1 human gesture toward a woman dragged into a celebrity wreck. Klay Thompson did nothing. Megan Thee Stallion did less than nothing. And that absence speaks louder than any Daily Mail headline could ever scream. Because the silence around Lexi Brown is the silence of 2 people who already know the truth, and a third party who needed the spotlight pointed somewhere else fast. So a manufactured ghetto narrative gets airdropped into the news cycle. The internet starts arguing about whether Klay Thompson is a snitch or a saint, and Lexi Brown disappears from the conversation entirely. That is not an accident. That is misdirection. That is the oldest magician's trick in the entire industry. Watch this hand while the other hand is doing the work, and most of you watch the wrong hand for an entire week without blinking even once. Let's talk about that viral pool video everyone keeps citing. The clip where Megan Thee Stallion is screaming song lyrics inches from Klay Thompson's face, while Klay Thompson bobs his head like a guy waiting for a dentist appointment to start. Megan Thee Stallion's fans screenshot that clip as proof of a happy couple. Jada watched that same clip and saw something completely different. Klay Thompson was not vibing. Klay Thompson was managing. Look at the table behind them. Nobody is moving. Nobody is matching her energy. Megan Thee Stallion is performing for a phantom audience that does not exist in that restaurant, and Klay Thompson is doing the social equivalent of nodding along at a coworker's terrible joke just to keep the temperature low. That is not love. That is endurance. That is a man who realized halfway through dinner that Klay Thompson became a prop in somebody else's content strategy. And men who feel like props eventually leave. Quietly. Without leaks. Without Daily Mail bylines. Without British tabloid quotes about volume levels and zip codes. Klay Thompson left the same way Klay Thompson does everything, like a sniper, with no trace, no smoke, no leftover noise, no audible footsteps on the way out. Here is the next layer, and this is where the temperature in the room changes. Megan Thee Stallion did not just want a boyfriend. Megan Thee Stallion wanted a soft landing. After the Tory Lanez trial, after the testimony, after the years of being a punchline in every barbershop podcast in America, Megan Thee Stallion needed a rebrand, and Klay Thompson was the wrapping paper. Athlete. Champion. Private. Respected. Boring in the way only winners can afford to be boring. Dating Klay Thompson was supposed to be a public laundering of the Megan Thee Stallion image, the camera roll equivalent of a fresh coat of paint over a wall full of holes. Pool pictures. Game night fits. Sideline kisses for the algorithm. And for a moment, the rebrand worked. Then Klay Thompson did the unforgivable thing. Klay Thompson stayed himself. Klay Thompson refused to perform the relationship at the volume Megan Thee Stallion needed. And the moment a partner stops performing, the brand value collapses. So the brand needed a new headline. And the headline arrived right on cue, gift-wrapped in Daily Mail font. Now lean in, because Jada is about to connect dots most commentators are too scared to even pick up. Look at every single time Tory Lanez has trended in the last 18 months. Pull up the timeline. Every time Tory Lanez trends, within 72 hours Megan Thee Stallion makes a public appearance, drops a teaser, launches a campaign, or announces something. Every single time. That is not a coincidence. That is a release valve. The Tory Lanez storyline is the most reliable promotional engine the Megan Thee Stallion camp has ever owned, and Rock Nation knows exactly how to crank that lever. Jay-Z mocking Tory Lanez and Tory Lanez's father on stage was not a comedy bit. That was branding. That was tribal positioning. That was a man drawing a line in the sand that signals to every reporter, every blog, every tabloid which side of the story gets the leaks and which side gets ignored. Megan Thee Stallion sits firmly on the side that gets the leaks. So when Megan Thee Stallion needs a story shows up. When the story is Klay Thompson is ghetto-fatigued, well, that lands a little too perfectly on Megan Thee Stallion's lap to be organic, and anybody who has watched these patterns play out for years knows exactly what an orchestrated drop looks like. Now examine the actual quotes inside the Daily Mail piece. The exact phrasing, the cadence, the vocabulary. Loud and ghetto is not athlete vocabulary. Athletes who grew up in dynasty locker rooms do not phrase fatigue that way. That phrasing is borrowed. That phrasing is rented from a specific cultural register, and it sounds like something a publicist drafted at midnight to make sure the headline would trend in 3 demographics at once. The phrase is engineered for outrage. The phrase is engineered for reaction videos. The phrase is engineered to keep Megan Thee Stallion's name in the trending column for one more news cycle, while the new music underperforms quietly in the background. Klay Thompson does not talk like that. Klay Thompson talks like a man who would rather fish than tweet. And the gap between how Klay Thompson actually communicates and how the Daily Mail framed Klay Thompson is the size of the Bay Area itself. A gap so wide you could drive a championship parade through it without scratching the paint. Let me say what nobody is saying. Klay Thompson is being used as the antagonist in a screenplay Klay Thompson never auditioned for. The breakup gave Megan Thee Stallion content. The diss track gave Megan Thee Stallion a verse. The Daily Mail leak gave Megan Thee Stallion the underdog narrative. Now Megan Thee Stallion can play the wronged black woman dragged by a wealthy white athlete's anonymous people, and every algorithm on earth will reward that storyline with views, sympathy, and a streaming bump that the Motion Party remix could not generate on its own. The breakup itself is the rollout. The breakup itself is the album campaign. Megan Thee Stallion did not just lose a boyfriend. Megan Thee Stallion gained a marketing strategy with a Daily Mail logo stamped on the box, a press cycle running on autopilot, and an emotional hook that practically writes the next album cover by itself. And Klay Thompson. If Klay Thompson is smart, Klay Thompson better brace for the second wave. Because once a personality like Megan Thee Stallion realizes a story has legs, the camp will milk it for every drop of attention left in the carton. Expect a follow-up leak. Expect an interview where Megan Thee Stallion delicately confirms how hurt Megan Thee Stallion was. Expect a Vogue or Elle photo shoot styled around healing. Expect a documentary teaser. Expect a song 2 months from now that quotes the Daily Mail headline back to itself like a mirror. The breakup is no longer a breakup. The breakup is intellectual property. And Klay Thompson is the inventory, the IP, the supporting character whose entire role is to lose on camera. This is also why the Lexi Brown silence matters more than anything else in the entire saga. Because if Klay Thompson really did cheat, Megan Thee Stallion's camp would have already named the woman, dragged the woman, posted the woman, dissected the woman, and turned the woman into a hashtag by Friday afternoon. That has been the playbook for every celebrity scandal in modern Black entertainment for at least a decade. Instead, Megan Thee Stallion is unusually quiet about the alleged side piece.
Why?
Because naming Lexi Brown would force Megan Thee Stallion to defend a specific accusation in public, and a specific accusation has receipts attached to it. Vague accusations float. Specific accusations sink. So Megan Thee Stallion keeps the cheating angle blurry on purpose, and lets a Daily Mail headline carry the emotional weight while Megan Thee Stallion publicly stays above the fray. That is not heartbreak behavior. That is chess. That is corporate strategy in a baby T, played on a board where the pieces are real people with real reputations on the line. And speaking of chess, look at the gender politics buried under this entire mess. Megan Thee Stallion's whole public brand has been built on declaring patriarchy the enemy, declaring monogamy a chain, declaring traditional relationships a cage that suppresses women's bodies and women's choices. Yet the second a relationship ends, the very first move is a song about cheating, the very next move is a Daily Mail leak about loyalty, the very next move is a soft pivot back to the most traditional possible heartbreak narrative imaginable. The contradiction is loud. The contradiction is on record. Megan Thee Stallion wants the freedom of liberation and the protections of patriarchy at the same time, in the same week, on the same press cycle. And it always works because the algorithm does not punish contradictions. The algorithm rewards engagement, and contradictions generate engagement faster than coherence ever could in any timeline we are currently watching unfold in real time. So here is what to watch for over the next 30 days, because Jada is going to call this in advance. First, Megan Thee Stallion will make a sympathetic appearance somewhere clean, somewhere photogenic, somewhere bathed in soft white light. Second, a new single will drop with a chorus that leans into vulnerability rather than aggression, because pivot sell. Third, an anonymous source will surface saying Megan Thee Stallion is healing privately, focusing on family, focusing on craft, focusing on therapy. Fourth, expect a strategic photo with a new man within 3 months, somebody less famous than Klay Thompson, somebody who can be controlled, somebody whose own brand will benefit from the proximity. Fifth, Tory Lanez will trend at the exact wrong moment for Megan Thee Stallion, and a fresh defense quote will conveniently appear. Watch the dominoes. Jada is telling you the order they fall, and Jada is willing to bet money. The order does not change one bit. The deeper question for everyone watching at home is this: why do we keep falling for it? Why does the same machine with the same writers, in the same outlets, with the same anonymous sources keep printing the same kind of stories? And why do millions of intelligent grown adults keep treating those stories like breaking news instead of marketing copy? The answer is uncomfortable. We fall for it because the stories satisfy something. They confirm tribal loyalties. They scratch parasocial itches. They give us permission to argue with strangers in comment sections for free dopamine. The Daily Mail story about Klay Thompson is not a news story. It is a product. And every retweet, every reaction video, every breathless headline is just another unit sold off the shelf, another receipt in a marketing campaign disguised as a heartbreak. Klay Thompson, if anyone close to Klay Thompson is watching, here is the advice for free. Say nothing. Do nothing. Do not respond. Do not deny. Do not confirm. Do not let a tabloid drag Klay Thompson into a content cycle designed to harvest Klay Thompson's silence. Just keep fishing. Keep training. Keep being the version of Klay Thompson that won championships while everyone else was busy tweeting. Because the camp running this campaign needs a co-star. Refuse the role. Starve the headline. And within a month, the news cycle will lose interest and Megan Thee Stallion will be forced to find a new prop, a new boyfriend, a new villain, a new Tory Lanez detour, a new Daily Mail favor. The machine is hungry. Do not feed it. Walk away clean and let the headline starve in its own grease until it dries up and blows off the page. There is one more thing Jada needs everyone to sit with before this video ends. The story you are being sold about Klay Thompson is not really about Klay Thompson at all. It is about you. It is about your attention. It is about training you, the viewer, to associate Megan Thee Stallion with sympathy and Klay Thompson with cruelty, so that when the next song drops you stream it twice, so that when the next photo posts you double tap it without thinking, so that when the next interview airs you nod along because the narrative has already been planted in your nervous system months earlier. That is the goal. That is always the goal. Celebrity heartbreak in 2026 is not an emotional event. It is a behavioral conditioning campaign with a budget, a calendar, and a target audience demographic spreadsheet. And right now, that spreadsheet has your name on a row, and the column next to your name is asking whether you bought it. So no. Jada does not believe Klay Thompson leaked that story. Jada does not believe the Daily Mail caught Klay Thompson venting. Jada does not believe people connected to Klay Thompson casually picked up a phone and called a British tabloid to call somebody loud and ghetto. Jada believes a flop diss track needed reinforcement. Jada believes a camp with a long history of leaking exactly this kind of story leaked exactly this kind of story. And Jada believes the next chapter is already typed up in a Google Doc somewhere in Manhattan, waiting for the moment Megan Thee Stallion's relevance dips one more inch. So stay alert. Stay skeptical. And the next time a Daily Mail headline drops out of the sky with quotes too clean to be real, ask the only question that ever matters in a story like this. Who benefits? Because once you answer that question honestly, the entire narrative falls apart in your hands like wet paper.
Hi,